So, here we are, another day. That feels good. Today, right now in this moment, I am in a deep, deep altered state. Not a chemically induced state, an experiential induced state. A lot is going on with my wife, Sarah, and connected to our families and to our life. And even though we've been separated for a year, I still deeply, deeply care about her, and talking to her today and experiencing her suffering. And the situation is really kind of complicated, and it seems like there's no way to help. And so then one of my issues is, one of my challenges in life is I have this capacity and handicap, blessing and handicap, as several people have told me in my life. The empathy thing is rough, because anytime I experience someone else's suffering or my own suffering, it was interesting. For that moment when I looked at this woman who walked by with her dog, I could, like, the suffering, the awareness of suffering lifted, and just for that brief moment, it was kind of nice with that connection. So what happens is I kind of tap into the collective suffering. It's kind of like an automatic Tonglen practice. The Tonglen practice is a Tibetan Buddhist practice where essentially you take suffering either from an individual that you know, your own suffering, or someone you know and care about, or a group, or even focus on a collective issue even from the start. And you bring that into full beingness and awareness, and you kind of hold it in a loving way, in a kind of blessing kind of way. So it kind of happens to me automatically, but in a way that I get so deep into the being within that field of suffering, I instantly go into the deep suffering of all beings through whatever I'm focusing on. And it's like the sorrow just washes over me and puts me into this deep altered state. It's exhausting. And it can be very transformative, but it also can be very, very debilitating. So it's something that I've grappled with for many years. And today I'm just being with it. I did the drawing today, and just as I was drawing it, I was holding that state. I was just being in that state, thinking about the suffering, holding the suffering in my heart. And then what emerged out of it miraculously really kind of felt like what I was feeling inside. And when I looked at it, it kind of it gave me a kind of a Tonglen practice where instead of being lost in it, it kind of pulled me into that blessing space. So I don't know if that was going to work for anybody else, but I've created my own Tonglen mandala, or mandala. I'm never sure quite how to pronounce that. I think it's mandala. Mandala. Some people pronounce it different ways. Anyways, I don't know if that practice is going to transcribe to other minds or to translate to other minds, but it should be interesting to see. But kind of brought up for me also the whole idea of the world of Samsara. And that's the actual drawing. When I finished with it, that's what the name came up for me, the Wheel of Samsara. And for me, the Tonglen practice is really connected to that concept of samsara, which it's I would want to say, I don't know if it's Hindu or Buddhist or both. I have to look it up, you know, maybe I'll put it in here. And for me it means this world of form inherently has suffering. And when we're doing the Tonglen practice, when we're doing that kind of embrace of suffering and recognizing it and holding it and extending our healing awareness into it, that's part of it, recognizing that this is samsara, the world of form. This is part of the world of form, the world of duality, of right and wrong, of life and death, all these, you know, the impermanence of the world inherently has suffering, and that, for me, is what that word kind of signifies, is that notion. So, that was my work today, and that pretty much focusing on the human interaction and connecting with suffering and feeling that sense of helplessness and almost hopelessness, but in a strange kind of way. When I hold it this way, there is at the same time, for me, even when I'm deep into that, there's feeling of, I don't know what that word is. Hi. What is that word I'm thinking of? Well, maybe I could describe it. It's kind of like feeling the hopelessness, feeling the despair, and yet at the same time feeling a hand on my shoulder, like I'm not alone. And there is a way through this, there is something beyond this. It's just so beyond my understanding, capacity, awareness. And so there's this element of, I don't know if you call it faith, or just, yeah, and I gotta switch hands. It's not totally in despair, and it's, for me, the great kind of way to kind of hold it is the difference between sadness and sorrow. Sadness or depression is just kind of like, it's just this full isolation experience. For me, sorrow is more along the line of this samsaric, Tonglen kind of awareness, which is just being in it and witnessing it and holding it is an act of charity, an act of kind of, for me, it's kind of like a Kabbalah practice where they talk about tikkun olam, repairing the world. I think in a way when we do that, when we hold the sorrow, when we be with it and hold it in a loving way, fully embracing it, it repairs the world in some way, either inside me, outside me, or both. The challenge for me is being able to be fully present to that suffering right in front of me, in terms of I so fast go into the big well of sorrow and suffering that it's almost like I can't be in that moment with that person. Although, I have to say, it's very easy for me to be fully present with someone who I don't have all this wounding with. So, I'm realizing that as I'm talking. So that's probably one of my challenges, is to be able to do that. Or not, and to let that go and to be with that too. So, so. So I think this feels like a good moment. Namaste. Peace out. Peace in.